The following announcement has been paid for by the New World Order.
And I can now say that if Akira Hakuto is on the card, I will be excited.
Ultimo Dragon won with the Tiger Suplex. This was the actual suplex that I was talking about when I said he did that suplex that I liked. That was it, the Tiger Suplex.
Okay.
They called it the Tiger Suplex, but I thought that was actually the Butterfly Suplex. That's what I called it. I think they called it what the full Nelson suplex was. But this is also the suplex that the leopard guy in Tekken uses too.
The best spectacle of wrestling we've ever seen. Too bad we'll never ever show it on a pay-per-view.
His face is recognized in every corner of the planet. He is the living legend, the reigning NWO. But let's go on to the
Wrestling Rewind. This week is Starrcade 96. And what a pay-per-view this was. This was a treat.
This was actually, yes, a pretty dang good pay-per-view. I was confused for a little bit. You know, because all the matches were like America versus Japan. I was like, is that just the thing of this pay-per-view? Because they did that last time too. But then, you know, the second half wasn't.
The Tokyo Dome show in Japan, I think, kind of coincided with Starrcade. So they were building angles for that as well.
Okay. Yeah, there were a couple matches that were set up for it.
A video plays to hype up the main event, and the time for talk is over. Piper and Hogan are squaring off tonight. Hogan has the entire NWO behind him, and Piper is his own man, and he won't even give allegiance to WCW. And we're in Nashville, Tennessee. Shivani, Dusty, and Heenan are on commentary, and they hype up the main event as well. They call it the match of the century again. And Hogan is given the advantage due to being the bigger man and having the entire NWO. And Heenan says it's going to be a very long night for Hogan because he's never beaten Piper, and he's not going to do it tonight. And then Shivani says the NWO are trying their damnedest to recruit more men to surround Hogan with. Which I was expecting a reveal, but that didn't happen. Spoiler.
Nope.
And the first match of the night is Ultimo Dragon versus Dean Malenko. And this is a J-Crown unification match for the Cruiserweight. I don't know how they worked it out. Ultimo Dragon put up his 8 titles. Dean Malenko put up his 1.
Yeah, that's why I took it. It's for all 9 titles.
Which unification to me means that they would combine a title with another title.
Yeah, I could say you would say that.
And the sight of Dragon with the 8 titles is pretty fucking impressive, I will say.
That's always how I remembered about him having the 8 titles. Well, I didn't remember there were 8, but him having all those damn belts.
Yeah, I don't remember the specific number, but yeah, he had a shit ton of them.
And I was thinking about that. I'm glad they clarified it. I was like, you know, it's good that he has the 8 titles, but that means he would have to lose 8 times.
Right.
You know, as the titles go away. But yeah, apparently it was all or nothing for this.
Well, I like how Dragon was all smiles until Malenko came out. It looked like he was just having a good old time. Then Malenko came out staring daggers. And once he got into the ring, he just looked at Dragon the entire time as he's taking his vest off. And you can see Dragon, he notices Dean's not fucking around. So the smile just slowly drops from his face. He just kind of nods. He's like, all right. It's a nice little moment. We got a Go Dean Go chant. Fans love some Malenko. And they brought up the goddamn match with Steven Regal again.
Dean Malenko was proving that he can hang with the heavyweights by facing William Regal, and they fought to like a 30-minute draw or something.
Yeah. Just the best spectacle of wrestling we've ever seen. Too bad we'll never ever show it on a pay-per-view.
Yeah. If you missed it all, you probably missed one of the greatest moments in wrestling history.
Kills me. Tony Schiavone called it a half crab, a kind of half crab. And then Dusty's like, what the fuck are you talking about? That's a whole half crab. And Heenan's like, well, that's like being half nuts. Malenko got an applause break for drop kicking Dragon's knee, which I thought was great. You never see shit like that. Who gets applauded for the shit that they do? You get the standard, this is awesome chant, but that's just so the fans can feel included.
Yeah, 5 minutes into a match, too.
Yeah. Who applauds for something like that? Nobody, because fans are stupid now. So yeah, Malenko did the drop kick to Dragon's knee. They had a power slam that 1 was awesome, and 2 got another huge pop. And Dragon went for a tombstone. Dean reversed it for a near 2. And he had his double arm power bomb.
That tombstone was awesome.
This was an awesome match. This was really good. It's like everybody brought it to another level, especially from the last pay-per-view. Well, Dean hits a double arm powerbomb, and he goes for a pin instead of the cloverleaf, which I thought was weird. And then Malenko and Dragon try to dump each other out of the ring, but it got fucked up. So Malenko ends up going head over ass outside the ring, and then Dragon ends up just falling and then rolling out like a second later, pretending to be hurt. And Malenko finally gets the cloverleaf after Dragon misses a moonsault, but Sonny Ono immediately gets involved. And then we see a rare sign of anger and emotion from Malenko. After he had the cloverleaf on, and then he continued the match, you can see there was a second where he's like, God, I gotta keep doing this. Because he knew he had it. And then he started to get angry.
It was also a rare thing that he actually went after Sonny Ono.
Well, he went after a woman.
Not during the cloverleaf.
What the fuck happened? I don't know if he was going for the cloverleaf or not. He went for something. And woman got on the apron. He went after a woman. And then she ended up raking his eyes or some shit so Chris Benoit could beat him. So, I mean, he's gone after the valet/managers before. He's just never lost his cool before. The Dragon ends up winning with a tiger suplex, which didn't need to happen because Malenko had Dragon pinned, and then he just decided to flip him up for no reason. The ref was even counting, like 1, 2, and then Malenko's like, nope, not good enough. Let me flip him up. And the Ultimo Dragon will face Jushin Thunder Liger in the Tokyo Dome for the Cruiserweight title at some point. And of course, we won't see it because that's New Japan.
Yep, we ain't doing that. But Ultimo Dragon won with the Tiger Suplex. This was the actual suplex that I was talking about when I said he did that suplex that I liked. That was it, the Tiger Suplex.
Okay.
They called it the Tiger Suplex, but I thought that was actually the Butterfly Suplex. That's what I called it. I think they called it what the full Nelson Suplex was.
The full Nelson Suplex, that's the Dragon Suplex. The Butterfly Suplex is like a double arm DDT, but you do a suplex instead of the DDT.
Okay. But yeah, I didn't know that was the Tiger Suplex. I thought it was a different suplex. So my suplex knowledge seems to have faded over the years, but
mine too. I had to look it up because I thought this was the Dragon Suplex. Tanae even said it was a version of a Tiger Suplex. But every time I looked up Dragon Suplex, that was the full Nelson thing. So then, okay, well, Butterfly Suplex. Okay, well, what does a Tiger Suplex look like? And that's exactly what that is. So Tanae's an idiot. Fuck you, Tanae.
But this is also the suplex that the leopard guy in Tekken uses too. Yeah, that's what he uses. And where I got on all these suplexes, on the PlayStation 1, there was a wrestling game. It wasn't a WWE game or a WCW game. It was just like a generic wrestling game. And that move was in there.
It is pretty common. Well, up next is Akira Hokuto versus Medusa for the inaugural WCW Women's Championship. And I had to look it up. Akira teamed with Bull Nakano in that awesome women's tag match at World War III 95.
Okay, that was her partner?
Yeah. And holy fuck, Hokuto's entrance was badass with the contacts and the mask and the frill.
Yeah, she'd had a great presentation.
And can you imagine if it was today?
If she was in today?
Just the presentation. That was 96 WCW, who clearly does not give a shit about entrances at all.
Yeah, they'd have it cranked up to 10.
Medusa looked a little rougher this time around. I'd still smash her.
I was going to say she was gettable.
But she looked like she's had a couple more beers and she's been to a couple more trailer parks.
I mean, she didn't have the knockers yet. I mean, she had some knockers, but not the knockers.
Well, she looked cleaner in her last match.
I think it was the hair, because her hair was kind of...
It was the hair, it was the tan. I don't know. She just looked older. Hakuto was working like a supernatural demon, and she even tried to eat Medusa's foot while she had her in some sort of stretch hold. And she was fucking awesome.
With the shoe on, by the way.
Yes, with the shoe on. And she beat the living fuck out of Medusa. And Nick Patrick was the referee. And he's out of the neck brace. Although he still grabs his neck when he makes a call. Although it's only this match.
It's because during the other matches, it was a lot more blatant.
Patrick also has slightly longer hair. And he has earrings. because this is the era where earrings signify that you're a bad guy. And the commentary hates his guts. So back to the match, Medusa knocks Hakuto out of the ring, and Sonny Ono comes running behind Medusa and nails her in the back of the head with the American flag. Like he ran full speed, no hesitation, just whacked the shit out of her with it. And Patrick ends up seeing the flag, and he just picks it up, places it in the corner. He's like, oh, what's this doing here?
I like his little like scowl thing when he's being a bad guy too.
He always does that when he holds up his fingers. He has that little scowl, like, two.
Yeah, especially when he's cheating the person.
Patrick's great.
He is.
So yeah, he's picking up the American flag. This is all while Akira continues an assault on a near unconscious Medusa. And Hakuto ends up winning with a Northern Lights bomb. After the match, Hakuto's husband wants to whoop Sonny Ono's ass. I think it's because he wants to fuck Hakuto. And I can now say that if Akira Hakuto is on the card, I will be excited. Because this was a damn fine match.
Yeah, it was well done. I mean, she was like throwing her by her hair. One point in the turnbuckle, she just picked her up by her neck.
Oh, yeah.
It's like,
and the screaming.
And she was smaller, much smaller than Medusa. And she couldn't tell that because she was throwing her around like she was bigger.
Yeah, I guess I couldn't tell. But yeah, Akira Hakuto is badass. Chicks today could learn something from her. Side note on the women's title.
That they didn't even show.
They didn't show it, did they?
Nope.
Akira held the title for 168 days, and then she dropped it so she can go home to Japan. So 3 months later, some lady named Devil Masimi became the next champion before it was deactivated. They did an angle 2 years later trying to revive the women's title with Medusa, and I guess that's when Oklahoma and Vince Russo were involved, so nothing became of it. This is when they had the Nitro girls and shit learning how to wrestle.
So we never really see the title get like a thing.
No.
Interesting.
It is interesting because I can honestly say that WCW has had the best women's matches I've ever seen. And for them to not even have a title for it.
Yeah, I was thinking during this match, damn, both of the women's matches have come from half of the women being from Japan. Mm-hmm. And then they were hard as hell.
Yeah, like, I keep telling you, women's
over there in Japan.
Yeah, women's Japanese wrestling is a fucking blood sport. Because Japanese wrestling in general is just different.
It is, but the women in the 90s, my God.
So after that, they pimped the WCW website. DDP's blowing smoke in some virgin's face while he's talking about his match against Eddie Guerrero later. After that, Mean Gene talks to Piper, Roddy Piper. Gene wants to know how Piper's feeling going into the match of the century. Piper goes on a long bit about how much of a midget he is and how much of a giant Hogan is. Then he mentions Hogan driving a Volkswagen for some reason. Piper says Hogan acts like there's only two icons, but there's Dusty Rhodes and Ed Strangler Lewis. Piper wanted to be someone, so they give him a dress and a bagpipe. He's the only one that can call it a dress because he's tough enough. Piper mentions how rough he has it with 6 kids and having left home at 13. And then he says if you take Roseanne Barr's bra, turn it over Hogan's head, it's a yarmulke. And then Gene blows right past all of that to simply ask Piper about his hip. And then Piper starts hopping out of the locker room on one foot. And then Gene goes back to the ring with hope in his eyes. And Piper sounded like he had asthma.
He sounded crazy.
He sounded like he had like some sort of lung disease. And then I'm going to fuck him up. And then...
I wasn't listening that hard.
I couldn't unhear it. As soon as I started noticing it, that's all I heard. I had to listen to it twice.
I can understand that. It's like when you hear someone do like a presentation. Usually it happens in the work environment. And then they start saying or you hear and then you're like, they say a lot. And then that's all you hear is like
But yeah, that was Piper and Mean Gene. I did like the big fight feel they gave the main event. Because it definitely felt like a big fight.
Yes, it did.
And Jushin Thunder Liger versus Rey Mysterio Jr. follows that. And at this point, Liger has been wrestling since the 80s, so I wonder how old this fucker is. Didn't he just retire?
Yeah, a few years ago.
So he's been around for a while.
It's the thing about that mask, you're ageless. You couldn't see shit. It might not even have been the original Thunder Liger. It might just be a moniker.
Well, they did mention that Liger has overcome a brain tumor.
2 months prior.
So, good for him. And both men shake hands to start the match. And that's as polite as both men get. because they beat the fuck out of each other too. Ray took a powerbomb on the floor. You would have thought he was obliterated the way he was screaming. The way Liger would throw Ray into the turnbuckles. Ray cutting off Liger when he tried getting into the ring. Sportsmanship just went out the window. They were wanting to win. And Ray definitely brought his A game tonight. It's like they all just leveled up since the last pay-per-view.
Yeah, they said, we got the foot on the gas pedal. Let's keep going.
Right. And Ray tries to do a Frankensteiner to Liger. And while Liger's sitting on the top ropes, the Liger holds on, so Ray falls on his ass. Then Liger hits a monster sit-down powerbomb. And Ray, he's just a hair too late to kick out. So Liger gets the 3. That was a good match, too. In fact, Giovanni says you're not going to find 3 better matches to open a pay-per-view. And I can't disagree at all.
Yeah, it'd be hard to find a combatant to that. But I said in the first match, commentary kept talking about if they could hang with the heavyweights. And then this match, it had that too. They kept saying, oh, could Rey Mysterio wrestle one of the heavyweights? Well, he wants to focus on the... This is Tenay. He only wants to focus on the cruiserweight title for now. I know that, but could he beat one of the heavyweights? Could he get in there with one of the heavyweights? Well, I don't know, but I know his sole focus right now. So like, just answer the damn question. Why can't you answer? Like you just say yes or no. But come to find out, Rey Mysterio can hang with the big dogs, and he is the biggest little man. He would earn that moniker later. Oh, there was also something on commentary that was funny too. Liger did a dragon screw, and then Dusty went ape shit over it. What was that? He said, I'm going to save that move for later. And then he said, hey, baby, that's called the dragon leg screw.
Good old Dusty.
Yeah.
Rey Mysterio, I think, was the only one I couldn't see wrestling a heavyweight. Definitely Liger and Eddie.
And Malenko.
I don't know. I didn't get to see his legendary match against Steven Regal that they brought up twice.
Well, they all transitioned into heavyweight division, so yes, they could hang.
I mean, they played a video package about the NWO and Roddy Piper and Hogan. They couldn't play a video package of Dean Malenko and Steven Regal?
No, you just had to be there.
Chris Benoit and Jeff Jarrett is after that. No DQ match. And I'm not sure what the deal with Jarrett and the Horsemen are at this point. Shivani just kept saying Jarrett's endorsed by Flair and Benoit's a Horseman. But apparently there's tension within the actual Horsemen, so who the fuck knows? Then Shivani mentions the videos Benoit and Woman took for Sullivan. And this is the ones I was mentioning where it's pre-Pete Davidson, where they're in the hotel. Sullivan! I'm fucking your woman. Nancy said you used to take her to this restaurant.
I fucked her there too.
Benoit shoves Jarrett to the mat, and then he pretends to kick dirt on him, which I thought was a nice little heel move. Of course, Benoit moves at 100 miles an hour. I don't know how he does it. I don't know how he does it without, like, killing somebody.
Being a good professional wrestler.
That's true. That's why he was one of the best. Benoit gets Jarrett on his hands and knees and then just starts slapping the back of his head. Then he rubs his boot on Jarrett's head. That pisses Jarrett off. He knocks Benoit on his ass and then starts walking on him. And he does his little perfect form strut, the complete opposite of Flair's. Woman, of course, was at ringside screaming and providing distraction. It was really weird seeing Benoit and Woman at the beginning of the match just posing side by side, smiling. I think that's when it finally hit me. Like, oh.
He bought her that dress. But I guess the whole story was, I mean, at least the Horseman part of the story. Maybe they're bringing Jarrett in and kicking Benoit out.
Well, it sounded like Benoit's too busy chasing pussy to focus on Horseman business.
As Mongo would say later.
Oh, we'll get to that. So it's a no DQ match, but they still did the spot where Benoit had Jarrett in a sleeper hold, and Benoit would use the ropes for leverage while the ref wasn't looking, and the ref would stop him when he saw him using the ropes. So Arn Anderson comes out, sneers at Benoit. He gets in Jarrett's corner with his arms folded. And Hugh Morris and Conan come out for some reason. They try to kidnap Woman. Woman kicks Morris in the dick. And then Conan locks... Conan locks in a chokehold On woman. He wasn't playing around. And then Anderson is watching Jarrett and Benoit fight on the ring floor. And he's instructing Jarrett. He's like, get him back in the ring. So Jarrett throws Benoit in the ring. And as Jarrett's getting back in, Anderson grabs him and hits him with a quick DDT on the floor. Just as that happens, Kevin Sullivan comes in on the other side, hits Benoit with a folding wooden chair, and it smashes into smithereens. And Sullivan is also wearing a Four Horsemen shirt with Benoit and Anderson cut out for some reason. And Anderson tosses Jarrett back into the ring, whose arm just so happens to roll on top of the unconscious Benoit. And Jarrett wins 1-2-3. Arn is confused as fuck, as we all are. And Woman starts yelling at Arn for not saving her. Arn tells the bitch that it's her fault. She's like, my fault? And he walks away. It's like, my fault? How's it my fault? And then Gene tries to talk to Anderson, who isn't having any of it. Then he tries to talk to Jarrett, who just walks past him doing his little victory salute. And Benoit and Woman don't want to talk to Gene either. And then Mongo and Deborah come out because there haven't been enough people involved in the segment. And Mongo says that he's there to tell it like it is, which means if he tells you that there's a mosquito that can pull a plow, hook him up! And Mongo says he's done nothing but win, and Benoit should focus more on winning matches than chasing pussy. And Mongo says Jarrett was served up to Benoit on a silver platter, and he should have won the match, ignoring the fact that Sullivan contributed to his CTE with that wooden chair. And Mongo is so disgusted he doesn't know what to say, so Deborah gets mic time. Deborah calls Woman a slut, and all men want to fuck her, but Steve is the only dick for her, and it's a good thing she's pretty. That's all I can say. Then they show a replay of a woman kicking Morris in the dick, and you can hear the crowd go, ooh. Very sympathetic crowd to a dick kick.
There was some line about woman being ridden hard and put up wet, whatever that even means.
I'm sure that's a horse term or something.
It was quite the overbooked match, as they usually are in this scenario.
There's a lot of pieces, yeah.
I didn't realize how much of a fight forever thing was going on between Benoit and Sullivan.
I mean, to be fair, he did steal his wife. If you're going to have a blood feud with anybody, that would be it.
I didn't realize it went that hard. Or maybe I just overlooked it because, I was so taken aback by all the NWO stuff that didn't stick out to me too much.
Well, it was also kind of early, especially the intense stuff.
That's true, yeah.
It was a good match, though, all things considered. I think they could have just let Arn interfere. That was a lot of shit to follow.
Yeah. Now, there was that slow motion of Arn hitting his DDT, and then all the movement that was happening before he dropped down. I did like that.
Just his fluidity.
Yeah.
Yeah, Arn's good shit, man. And next up, we get a Sting video package. And we still don't know if he's WCW or NWO. And last time we saw him, he was leaning pretty heavily towards the black and white. And NWO is trying really hard to recruit him. Lex is sorry. WCW wrestlers who've been attacked want Sting's head on a platter. And Sting just stays chill in the rafters. The Outsiders face the Faces of Fear for the Tag Team Championship. And the Outsiders are totally failing at being the bad guys. Because they are fucking popular as shit.
Yep, they're just so cool.
There's a nice little interaction between Heenan and Shivani. Dusty and Shivani are stewing over Nick Patrick having earrings because, of course, that means he's with the NWO. And Heenan says, well, I've never actually seen him interact with the NWO. I mean, he's goofy and he does some weird shit, but I don't think it's really fair to say he's with the NWO without definitive proof. And Tony says, can I say something? You're here. That means you're WCW. So just start acting like it. And Heenan is like, well, can't I be fair and honest? And Tony says, well, you haven't before. I just thought that was funny.
And it is worth noting that Nick Patrick was the referee on this match.
He was.
Very important to know that information.
And Ming starts off by beating the fuck out of Hall. And it looked like Hall spit in Barbarian's mouth. At least the way the Barbarian reacted. Nash gets a Diesel chant, his first tag in. He looks like a bear. And the Faces of Fear beat the fuck out of Diesel while Hall just stands on the apron watching inches away. Which kind of bugged me. And Patrick refuses to count a pin on Hall because Barbarian isn't the legal man. but he allows Barbarian and Hall to continue to wrestle. So I didn't quite wrap my head around that one.
I like the part where there was a nerve hold on Hall. Hall was fading, and if you looked hard at Nick Patrick, he was looking over at Nash, like trying to signal him to come help, come break it up. But he wouldn't move, and then he wouldn't check him.
Well, Six ends up snatching Jimmy Hart's megaphone, of course. Like, I don't know why he brings the megaphone out at this point. I feel like this is like the third or fourth time in a row that Jimmy Hart's megaphone has been stolen from him. And the funny thing is, Ming could have stopped Six at any point because he chased Jimmy Hart off saying he's going to squash him. Yeah. And Ming's just watching. There's a lot of just watching. And yeah, Schiavone and Heenan, they lose their shit because Patrick doesn't check on Scott during the long-ass nerve hold. And Hall gets a second win. And why not? He's been in there for long enough. Nash gets a big boot on Barbarian. Ming breaks it up. Hall and Ming fight to the floor. And Barbarian misses a kick. Nash hits his powerbomb 1, 2, 3. And the heels win clean.
I guess.
Aside from like that little nerve hold thing. I guess it wasn't little.
If I remember, he was counting slow. Maybe it was that other match.
I feel like he always counts slow.
Oh, that's true.
But this was a fun match. I will say that. Lots of action, minimal bullshit.
Yep. Those faces of fear. Always a hard-hitting affair out of them.
And I went into this expecting to hate every second of it, too. You know, I'm not a big tag guy. But, yeah, this was really fun to watch.
Yep.
Well, after that, the NWO is given equal time to Piper's interview. So we cut to DiBiase. DiBiase says the time for talk is over. Piper, you wanted to say you're as big of an icon as Hogan? Well, you got what you asked for, and you're going to regret it. Tell him, Hulkster. Hogan says he has a parade waiting for him in California because he already told him that he's beaten Piper and his 6 kids are crying. And he was able to accomplish this because California is on Pacific time. Hogan somehow thought Piper ran back to Portland and ran away from the match, but saw one of Piper's snot-nosed kids trying to bum a quarter for a Coke. And he knows no matter how much of a liar or a cheater or a woman Piper is underneath that skirt, he wouldn't leave his kids behind. Hogan says it's Hollywood Day, not Piper Day. And to put the final nail in the coffin, Hogan's going to show the entire wrestling business that he is the wrestling business. Then Hogan says he's not acting with chumps like Stallone or Schwarzenegger, even though he was in Rocky III and would suck a dick in a heartbeat to be in a Schwarzenegger movie at that time. He's ready for the match.
What, this would have been like a Predator?
It was 96, so it was a racer. He did True Lies 2 years before that, and Last Action Hero, and 5 years away from Terminator 2. Then he did Jingle All the Way and some other shit movie. And then it all kind of went downhill. So up next is DDP versus Eddie Guerrero for the U.S. title. And this is a U.S. title tournament final. And I guess instead of a heavyweight title shot, DDP gets a U.S. title shot. So that's a good consolation prize, I guess. And he was surprisingly over, considering that he's been nothing but a goof. So much so that they tell the ref that DDP isn't cheating when he grabs the ropes while having Eddie in the abominable stretch. Because usually the fans will say, he's cheating. The ref will ask the fans, no, he ain't cheating. It's fine. Yeah. Eddie did a great job of playing the little big man. He didn't back down from Dallas at all. Dallas tried to do the ref spot where he gets backed into the corner. Nick Patrick does it really well. But this ref, he bailed on because he saw how little tea he had. Great back and forth for both of them. And Eddie ends up missing a frog splash. DDP tries to hit his diamond cutter and gets countered into a backslide. And DDP hits a tornado sit-out powerbomb that surprisingly wasn't the finish. I thought it was. Eddie gets dumped out of the ring after DDP runs into him while he's in the corner. I'm not sure how that worked out, but it happened. Then out come the Outsiders. And I appreciate how everybody is running to the ring except for Nash. That motherfucker does not hurry for anything.
Nope, because he's the heavy.
And Hall hits DDP with a god-awful Razor's Edge, then leaves.
And this was the first Razor's Edge we've seen.
It is.
I guess DDP's a big guy, so he was hard to get up.
Yeah, it looked like DDP was kind of sandbagging a little bit.
Yeah.
And Eddie hits the frog splash, 1, 2, 3. The Outsiders tell Page through the camera that he should have joined him. And then the NWO comes back to the ring for Eddie. Eddie makes a really good fight out of it, but Nash finally gets a hold of him. Then Hall and Nash hold Eddie's arms on the ropes while Six ravages him with his karate. Then Six grabs the U.S. title, and the Outsiders stand over a still fallen Page. So the Giant steals the U.S. title from Flair. WCW makes a new belt, holds a tournament, and at the end of that tournament, the NWO steals the new belt.
Oh yeah, they gotta have the new belt too. Like, you don't go making a new belt, but it is. I don't know. Six did hit that little spinning, jumping back kick thing pretty good. And I know you're making fun of his karate, but he did hit that. Yeah, the title just appeared, and then they took it too.
So after that, the Giant faces Lex Luger. By this time, Luger has already proven that he can rack the Giant. So this isn't as daunting of a task for Luger as it would have been a year ago. And it's Ponytail Lex to start the match. This is when he's all smooth. It starts off with the Giant being Giant, but Luger's not backing down. Giant eventually boots Luger's ass clear out of the ring, and Luger was in so much pain he decided to undo his ponytail from the floor. And the match pretty much goes exactly how you would think. Giant beats Luger's ass like a big man. Luger would try to make a comeback, but falls short. Luger tries to slam Giant and fails, and you would think that they would learn by now not to do that.
It's always to tell the story.
Why don't we tell the story of somebody learning from past mistakes?
I don't know. It's like the old WrestleMania thing where someone's arm's gonna get trapped in the ropes. Usually the big guy. It's just part of their thing.
Well, the Giant makes it a point not to pin Luger. He wants to make him feel pain like he's never felt before. And then the Giant goes for a drop kick to Luger while he's against the ropes and misses. And Shivani and I both wonder at the same exact time why the fuck the Giant attempted a drop kick at all. Luger hits a neck breaker, which the Giant kicks out of, and it launches Luger into the referee, so the referee's dead. Out comes Nick Patrick, just as Luger is about to get the Giant in the torture rack. Patrick's kind of sneaking behind the ring post, making sure Luger doesn't see him. Lex gets Giant up for the rack, and Patrick gets in the ring, and Patrick gives Luger's leg a little sissy kick. So Luger goes after Patrick. And out comes Sting. Luger shoves Patrick out of the ring, locks in the torture rack on the Giant, and now out comes Six, and he saves the Giant with his karate. Meanwhile, Sting is leisurely making his way to the ring, probably stopped and ate a hot dog at one point. Finally hits the ring, shoves Nick Patrick with his bat, drops the bat in the middle of the ring, then whispers something into both Luger and Giant's ears. And he leaves. Luger reaches the bat first, but Giant steps on it. And he slowly shakes his head and makes to drag Luger back to his feet. And then Luger just nails Giant in the dick. Then he starts beating Giant's ass with the baseball bat. And the first ref, who's been motionless the entire time, suddenly comes to life to count the 1, 2, 3. And Luger celebrates a hard-fought victory over the Giant and shows absolutely no concern for the referee whose injuries he indirectly caused.
What did you want him to do?
Are you okay?
He's got it.
My bad. Do you need help? Anything? And the Giant pouts after the match, while the commentary team says the NWO left the Giant high and dry, even though Six is a one-man army.
And Nick Patrick was out there. Yeah, he was upset, but he had a lot of help. Having Nick Patrick there should be enough.
Right.
Luger was so over.
Yeah, he was.
That caught me off guard. Like, he was so over.
Yeah, it was pretty popular.
He's like now becoming the face of WCW.
So Michael Buffer's in the ring, and he's here to present the featured match of the evening. A match being called the match of the decade. But an event of such magnitude may actually be the match of the century. Wrestling fans, are you ready? Are you ready?
I am ready. This is how you make a big match.
Right?
The things he introduced, both of them. For Hulk Hogan, he says, introducing first, his face is known around the world. Originally from Venice Beach, now living in Hollywood, California. His face is recognized in every corner of the planet. And his name is in every professional wrestling record book. He is the living legend, the reigning NWO WCW. So yeah, that's what Hogan gets. And then Piper gets about the same. When Piper comes out, it's also known around the world as a native of Ayr, Scotland, but now living in Portland somewhere. His accomplishments also in wrestling make him known around the world. And he's also a living legend. And he's one of the most popular and charismatic heroes of the sport. So yeah, that's what they both got.
I did get, he said that tonight Hogan meets the opponent he's always wanted to face, which tells me that Buffer is not a WrestleMania fan.
Oh, it was a tag match.
He's faced him before, though.
I thought it was only in the tag match, at least from what we've seen.
Right, from what we've seen. Still, he's faced him. They had a war to settle the score in 85. It was in Madison Square Garden. Piper got disqualified.
Oh, yeah, that led to WrestleMania 1. I remember, yeah, Piper was like the biggest bad guy. Okay, thank you.
So, yeah, he's faced him before. So, Michael Buffer's a goddamn liar.
All that for Michael Buffer.
Yep.
And it's good that we watched the other pay-per-views, because I remember I didn't get the whole Piper thing.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, rewatching it, I can see like he was such a big part of wrestling history.
So the match starts off with Hogan trying to get in Piper's head by slapping him a couple times. Then Hogan gets dumped out of the ring. They eventually fight to the outside after Hogan goes to the floor for the 4th or 5th time. Piper blatantly whips Hogan with a belt. The ref doesn't do dick, so I guess we're no DQ now. The ref only stops Roddy when he's attempting to murder Hogan by strangulation. There was a part where Hogan's outside the ring and the referee's trying to keep Roddy back. So Roddy picks up the referee and puts him on the turnbuckle and pats him on the head. The ref didn't know what to do.
Oh yeah, telling him to stop the counting.
Yeah, he's like, what the fuck do I do now? A man just lifted me up. I think you just have to leave at that point, right? You can't officiate. So Hogan eventually targets Piper's hip scar, and then he misses a leg drop. Piper starts hopping on one leg again, then starts kicking Hogan's ass. Then out comes the Giant. Giant gets Piper up for a choke slam, and as Giant gets Piper up, a fan decides that he wants to get into the match, which is really stupid. You have the Giant, you have Hulk Hogan, and you have Roddy Piper in the ring. Like, seriously, what was the fan going to do? Save Roddy?
I don't know. He got his licks, so there's that.
Yeah,
Hogan was kicking him in the head. You run in here, this is what you get. I love the commentary. They're like, there's a fan in the ring. And Dustin said, well, he didn't last long.
Yeah. Dusty had no sympathy, as they shouldn't. That was stupid. So as this is going on, and you can see Piper's like, oh, hold on. So the Giant has to stand there for a long ass time with Piper up for a choke slam while Hogan and the ref tend to the drunkard. So after about 12 seconds, Hogan rushes back into position to get kicked by Piper, who again is still being held up for a choke slam. So for context, it takes about 3 to 5 seconds for a choke slam, depending on how much sizzle he wants to put on it. This was 12 seconds of Piper just being lifted up awkwardly. And you can see him just having a conversation with the Giant. So that fan just fucked everything.
Yeah.
So Piper kicks Hogan, fights out of the choke slam, and then he locks in the sleeper hold on Hogan, who passes out. And Piper's the man. Piper stands on Hogan with one foot while fireworks are set off. NWO is defeated. We have our new champion. And the NWO hit the ring. Piper fights them off and then he bails. But that's okay because he's got the belt. Then the Giant just stares at Piper while he walks past him, looking at the new champion. Then Giant pouts and makes his way to go to the back. Then Hogan, who they just showed passed the fuck out a second ago, is shown chasing the Giant while the rest of the NWO wonder what the fuck's going on. Giant ends up shoving Hogan, and the outsiders both get in Giant's face. Giant wants to know where the fuck everybody was during his match, completely disrespecting Master 6. And Hogan says Giant dropped the ball, but thank God they still have the belt. What? What? How did they still have the belt? Why did they do a contract signing for a non-title match? They took up pay-per-view time for a non-title match.
Yeah, they did. I was also caught off guard too, because I thought it was a title match up until it wasn't.
And it did strike me like they never showed the belt. So Hogan tells the Giant that they're going to talk later, but he dropped the ball. So then he heads back to the fucking ring. Then he tells Virgil to get his belt. because they're the champions. They're the winners. What? And Hogan starts saying something. Then the camera cuts away from him. And Hogan politely taps the camera guy and says, hey, cut back to me if you get a chance. So the camera guy cuts back to Hogan, who says, non-title. I killed you, Piper. I'm the champion. What? Then Hogan spits in the camera, probably making the camera guy wish he would have just told Hogan that they were out of time. And we leave Nashville with Hogan doing what he does best, posing.
Yep.
So this was an A+ pay-per-view with a ruined main event.
I think it being a non-title match actually helped it. Because I was thinking in this match, I'm like, they kept talking about how this was the one man Hogan's never beat and how much of an icon in wrestling he is, that being Roddy Piper. And I was like, they did all this to bring this guy in so Hogan can get his victory. Essentially, bury Piper. It's like, oh, what do you need, Mr. Hogan? Let's bring Piper in so I can get my victory over him. That's what I was thinking going into this. Like, that's what was going to happen. And then it didn't. But if the title was on line, it surely wasn't going to happen. So I guess I'm glad it wasn't a title match because that helped it there. Only because they said it before. So it was the second time that NWO lost. One being the Giant losing. And I guess he's on his way out.
Well, for some reason, he thinks he's entitled to a title shot, even though this isn't a surprise. The World War III event is when they did the contract signing for this match. So for Giant to pout all of a sudden because he thinks he's been passed up by Piper is kind of silly. But they do
he did. He won that Battle Royal thing.
Right. That would make him the number one contender. However, before that match even happened, Piper and Hogan signed their contract for their match.
Oh. Well, he should be getting his time.
He'll get a title shot. But they do a thing where Hogan presumed that the Giant was just going to protect him and not use his cash in. Giant, of course, wants a title shot. And it started off with, I want to prove myself against the best. Of course, Hogan didn't want to wrestle him.
I think I remember that.
And after Starrcade, Giant was removed from the New World Order for failing to help Hogan win his match. Giant was also unhappy with how he was never given a match for Hogan's belt, despite, winning the Battle Royal, like we just said. I think they face each other at Sold Out, if I'm not mistaken. I know they definitely wrestle. You're going to love Sold Out.
Can't wait.
This is the one I've been waiting for, personally, because I can't wait to see your reaction.
Okay.
Piper continued his feud with Hogan after, and they face each other at Super Brawl 7 for the title, so they have a rematch. And I think we know probably who's going to win that one. And throughout 97, WCW seemed to revolve around Sting, whose character was changed to become an Avenger, frequently being observed from the rafters. Storyline was built towards a match between Hogan and Sting for the title at Starrcade. So next year, we're getting Sting versus Hogan.
Look forward to that.
Yeah, the next WCW pay-per-view, of course, is Sold Out. Main event is Giant and Hogan. This is notable for the NWO theme all throughout the pay-per-view. For WCW people, I don't think they had theme music. They just had the NWO guy calling them losers. Loser. But before that, we have WrestleMania 14. And that is the one with Mike Tyson as the special enforcer for the main event, which is Shawn Michaels and Stone Cold Steve Austin. I don't know if it's his first title shot, but I do know it's his first title victory. So this is the coronation of the Rattlesnake.
Something to look forward to. So that's going to be good. And thus does it for our wrestling rewind. So if you disagree with anything, let us know in the comments. If you agree with anything, let us know in the comments. Don't forget to like, subscribe, follow us on the socials, and all the other things associated with social media. And until next time, Top Guys out.